From courtside of the virtual hardwood, it's the NLSC Podcast, a weekly show for basketball gamers and hardcore hoopheads. This is episode 582. I'm Andrew in our forum, Andrew NLSC on X and Blue Sky. I'm joined as always by my co-host Derek, DP3 in the forum, and DP3G and DP384 on X. Derek, we are back on the air after a week off with a very important announcement. This is now a Garfield Kart podcast. This was a long time coming. Well, maybe not, even with a new game coming out, but we will be talking basketball and basketball gaming as usual, so please, tip us off.
Garfield Kart 2, you knew there had to be a sequel.
Of course.
Right? And hopefully it's as epic as the original game. And in fact, it could be even more epic because think about the sequels for movies in the past that have been better than the original. Like, for example, the Terminator movies.
Sure.
The original Terminator was excellent, but Terminator 2 took it to the next level. So let's see what happens with Garfield Kart. I am happy to be back on the air after a short break. We don't usually take a week off, Andrew, but we had the long weekend. It felt like the right time, and now we're refreshed and we are ready to go. We will kick off the show with this week's main topic, where we discuss our summer gaming plans. Summer is a strange time for basketball gaming, Andrew, because the NBA season is coming to an end. The newest 2K is in sight, and summer plans in general can get in the way of time on the virtual hardwood. So I also posed this as a community question. I asked, do you plan on sticking with old favorites, or will you still be playing NBA 2K25 as your primary? Or will you be playing an even combination of NBA 2K25 and old favorites? So I'm going to throw it over to you first. Which one of those describe you the best? And does the end of the NBA season kind of make you spend less time on the virtual hardwood? My guess is no.
So, once again, I'm going to have a very unsurprising answer here. I am going to be mostly sticking with old favourites. I probably will go back to 2K25, if only to get some screenshots for future articles where I talk about the future of NBA 2K and other topics related to NBA 2K25 and the series in general. I do want to give it more of a go. I've talked about that on the podcast before, playing it a bit more, giving it another chance, even though it didn't grab me after some initial positive impressions. As I've said, when we go back and listen to our final review and our initial impressions, Derek, I am fairly positive about the game as far as, you can't really have an objective review, so to speak, but looking at it big picture-wise, looking at it as a game for the community, I do think it was an improvement. I do see many positives about it. It's why I will probably give it another go, but I haven't really been drawn to it after those initial positive impressions, so I will be sticking with old favourites. I'm up to Season 7 in NBA 2K14 my career, so I will be continuing with that fairly shortly. I've been taking a short break from that to play some other games, always bring an old game into the rotation to cover for Way Back Wednesday. Still deciding what I'm going to be doing for June, actually. Still deciding which title I will cover, but I will be sticking with old favourites while giving 2K25 a little go here and there. I pretty much play basketball games all year round, as I know you do, because I do have those old favourites in the rotation all year round. I think for me it actually fills the gap when there's no basketball on, when we have the off-season in the NBA. For me, it's a way to continue getting that basketball fix during the off-season, and there's always that temptation, especially when you're playing the newer games, to move plays around, to have a sneak peek at the new lineups at the beginning of free agency, when you do see some big moves, see how it pans out on the virtual hardwood, and how it might possibly pan out in real life as well. Yeah, it's a way to fill the gap and stand in when there's no real basketball. Of course, there is Summer League, and there's basketball being played all around the world for that matter, but yeah, the virtual hardwood does stand in for real basketball so often.
Similar here, and I think it's important to note that basketball didn't stop in the summer when we were growing up, right?
Not at all.
Or when we were in school and whatnot. When I was in high school, I was playing summer basketball for the team. But before that, summer meant, hey, it's beautiful out. We're going to go out and play on the blacktop, right? I'm going to play one-on-one with my brothers in the driveway. We're going to get somebody else and we're going to play some 2-on-2. I'm going to ride my bike to the park, right? And we're going to play basketball together or with strangers and whatnot. Basketball was a constant when the NBA was not in season when I was growing up, and that hasn't changed today. I don't play outside as much now, but I'm still playing in a basketball league, one that lasts until the beginning of July. So that's going to be about half the summer playing in that league. And then I have pickup on Saturday mornings that I play. There's going to be pickup on Tuesday nights when this season ends and whatnot. So I'll still be playing real basketball multiple times a week during the summer. So I'm getting my fix on the real hardwood, Andrew. Also, it's important to note that basketball video games never stopped growing up either at any time of the year. Just like you, it's an all year round thing. And, there were games that we played for years that weren't part of, quote unquote, the current cycle and whatnot. So, for example, like NCAA basketball, we played that for a few years growing up. NBA Live 96, we played that for a few years. We didn't just jump to NBA Live 97. Right. We were playing that for a couple of years, and then we got into NBA Live 98, but we were still picking up NBA Live 96 and doing our Legend season and whatnot. So basketball video games and playing real basketball for me has always been an all year round thing. And it never depended on an active NBA season. One thing I'm surprised you didn't mention is that, we have our Parsec sessions.
Of course.
That's going to be part of your summer. Not only that, we have our NBA 2K9 season that we're playing over Parsec.
Oh, indeed, yes.
Over Parsec, where we're playing on the same team using the Bulls. We've already played a game. We're going to play a couple more before we really discuss the ongoings in that season, the triumphs, the struggles, etc. But, Parsec, I plan on having that be a part of my summer gaming.
Oh, for sure. I totally neglected to mention that. You're right. And that is the thing, that we can play without having to relate it to the current season. That's when we used to play multiple seasons in franchise and dynasty modes. And of course, my career in NBA 2K14 is ongoing, that in between seasons, the perfect time to continue with an older game or to start a new season, as we're doing, and not have to relate to the current year. Although that was never going to be a problem anyway. Even if we started this 2K9 season in October, November last year, when the NBA season was tipping off and the 2025 season was tipping off, we'd have no problem throwing it back to 2009 at that time. But the off-season is a perfect time to fill it with all kinds of basketball.
Exactly. So I'm going to give my answer to the question. So for me, Andrew, 2K25 will stay in my rotation. But per usual, I will be spending most of my time with old favorites. The end of the NBA season, like I stated, does not impact my interest on the virtual hardwood because I'm not a fan of the current product anyway, and because it hasn't impacted it in the past, right? The new 2K being in sight doesn't change the fact that my brothers and I are having a lot of fun with a current team fantasy draft NBA season on NBA 2K25. We're creating great highlights. We're having a ton of laughs. We're creating video game legends, etc. And Andrew, the newest video game legend is Indiana Pacers rookie Johnny Furphy. He's a 6'8" shooting guard who in real life played only 50 games this season and averaged 2.1 points per game. However, in NBA 2K25, on superstar settings, he plays like a combination of Kyle Korver and Desmond Mason. His 3-point rating is over 90. He barely misses. His shot is easy to master, and he is quicker than he should be and can really throw it down. My brother Mark loves finding hidden gems. He loves finding the video game legends. In fact, he's created most of the video game legends from the past, the Walter McCartys, the Dan Dickows, the Pat Garrity's, etc. But Johnny Furphy is the newest addition to the Video Game Legend Club. Mark drafted him. He's averaging right now, I want to say like 25 to 30 points per game, about 10, 11 rebounds, a few steals, etc., shooting like 50% from the 3-point line, etc. So keep an eye out for some Johnny Furphy highlights at some point. And if you haven't used him in the game and you want to use him on the Pacers, or if you want to do a fantasy draft and pick him, I highly recommend Johnny Furphy.
And of course, Johnny Furphy, an Australian. So I love that pick.
There you go. So you need to draft him.
I do.
If
you
do.
Yeah, I totally, when we did our fantasy draft, I totally overlooked him. Yeah.
So as it relates to old favorites, my brother and I are getting deeper into our 85-86 season on NBA 2K19. We will be playing that all summer. I'm using Drexler, Kiki Vandeweghe, Kersey, Michael Thompson, Sam Bowie, and Jim Paxson, that Blazers team. And my brother Nick is using the Jordan Woolridge Bulls. We are each other's opponents for every game. The next game on the season is his Bulls versus the Purvis Short, Joe Barry Carroll, and Chris Mullen, Golden State Warriors. And I'm really excited to use that Warriors team. I think they're a lot of fun. They have a lot of good pieces. And just in general, there's a lot of fun teams to use in that 85-86 season. I feel like the league is completely loaded. I think, it was before the expansion of the league, so there's less teams to choose from, but that almost makes the season a little bit more interesting and whatnot with the pieces that are there. We are also continuing our Live 2000 Legends season, where we just played a game last night, actually. We're using Legends versus regular teams. The aim is to hit stat goals and make great highlights. I'll say again, I've said it on a past show, Wilt Chamberlain in that game might be the best video game player of all time. Wilt Chamberlain dunks on absolutely everybody. He is constantly throwing it down on defenders. They're hitting the deck, constant basket and fouls. He hardly ever misses when you shoot with him within 10 feet. He throws up hook shots from every now and then and hits those as well. But Wilt Chamberlain is just so damn dominant in NBA Live 2000. It's so fun to use him. And of course, I'll be playing the NBA 2K9 season with you using the Bulls versus the CPU. And how good is 2K9, Andrew? That has risen up your ranks quite a bit since we started playing it. And, before I started really recommending it, I don't really think you had picked up the sticks too often on that game, but it really stands out. The gameplay is really solid. The presentation is amazing. The game is graphically appealing, etc. Like, really good game.
Oh, it's rapidly rising my ranks of all-time favorite NBA 2Ks and basketball video games in general. Very pleasantly surprised because, as you know, and as our listeners probably know as well, NBA 2K8 did not impress me when I went back and played it to review it for Way Back Wednesday. And a lot of my criticisms were shared by people at the time. I know that people did enjoy it more than I do. I know that there is ultimately a well-designed, pretty good game in there under some of the issues. I just can't get into it. Not a problem with 2K9 at all. I think they really recovered from some of those issues in 2K8 and made a really great game. 2K10 I do love, 2K11 as well, but 2K9 absolutely growing on me. Really looking forward to that season. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, whether we make any moves, whether we decide to trade Larry Hughes, whether he ends up being that spark plug off the bench, whether he is that player we want to keep. It'll be interesting to see what we decide as the season goes on, and that will, of course, be a mutual decision anyway. But to your point about the 1986 season, love seeing those highlights. Clyde Drexler with incredible move in the top 10 this past week. And I was recently recommended a book, When the Game Was War, the NBA's Greatest Season, about that era. I think it's actually about the 1988 season, but close enough. But to your point, being such a golden age in the NBA, such deep teams, such great rivalries at the time, I need to track down that book and read it.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. It was brought up to us on the Discord, actually, the NLSC Discord.
That's right.
And the book is about the 87-88 season, I believe. And the league was full of stars. There were so many great players in the league and great teams and so many great rivalries. And I understand why that season was a choice. And hopefully my brother and I can get to that season. Maybe we can even play through 85, 86, 86, 87, and then get to 87, 88. Speaking of 2K19, that's another one of my goals on the virtual hardwood this summer is modding. I want to get back into modding a little bit, and I think 2K19 is the game for that, at least for me. And, helping Stildo with the draft classes, touching up things, creating new seasons, etc. I just think that NBA 2K19 is really fun for retro content. In fact, I posted a screenshot from NBA 2K19 where I'm throwing it down with Clyde Drexler in the Trailblazers black jerseys. And I posted this on the NLSC Discord and on Twitter. And I stated, out of all of the basketball video games I have ever played, I think that 2K19 looks the best for retro content, for retro gameplay. It's the lighting. It's the textures. That Clyde Drexler in-game screenshot where he's throwing it down, to me, that looks like real life, right? So, yeah, I love 2K19 for that. But yeah, that leads me to my next question. Do you plan on modding this summer? If you do mod, what are you looking at tackling? Because I know it's not going to be NBA 2K25. I know you're not fond of it. I know you want to mod a game that you really enjoy. So what could you possibly tackle this summer? Do you have any plans?
Well, I do have a few projects for NBA 2K6 for Xbox 360 because I've been rolling back the rosters. I just released a new version of my 2005 roster a couple of weeks ago, and I have a 2004 roster coming together. It's almost complete now, actually. And it's a minimalist roster because there's only 20 players that you can create. You can't change player positions. You can't change years pro. So there's not as much accuracy as you would have on PC. But it's a fun thing for retro gaming, and you can just rehash the save, copy it to your Xbox 360. Unfortunately, the emulator isn't working well enough with NBA 2K6, or a lot of games for that matter, the Xbox 360 emulator, so it can't be played with that at this time. Well, I suppose it can, but the gameplay is not going to be fun enough. It really is meant to be downloaded to a original console and played. So I'll be working on that. Want to get back to that ABA roster for NBA Live 06. I've got some other projects for Live 06, those Missing Legends rosters, and using that as a base and a springboard to make some classic team rosters for NBA Live 06. So it's really going to be about modding old favorites as well as playing them for me. But I love that you're working on 2K19. I absolutely agree that those rosters look so authentic. It looks like that's originally a 1988 game, or 1986 game, I should say, with modern graphics. It's really cool.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. It makes me want to put the game on even more, right? Because of that appeal, the way it looks, the accuracy, etc. I also want to point out a couple other modding projects I'm looking at taking on. So I have a couple really detailed fantasy draft rosters for NBA 2K14 PC and NBA 2K13 PC, and I'd like to explore some of the new rosters that the community created in order to get some of the newer players into those rosters, because I haven't edited them in a while. So guys like, Victor Wembanyama, my draft roster doesn't even have like Luka Doncic, right? That's how long it's been since we've been adding players to those rosters. But I'd like to make those as complete as possible. I also want to note that Tecmo Bowl GGL, who has had a couple highlights in the top 10 before participated in some of the NLSC tournaments, reached out to me today to let me know that there is somebody that has figured out how to mod the Dreamcast NBA 2Ks.
That was really cool.
Modding them on the emulator. And I think that's awesome. I've always wanted to see what mods looked like for, say, the original NBA 2K, NBA 2K1, NBA 2K2. And I still think those games are incredibly playable, and they're really great to look at. Wouldn't it be cool to have classic teams rosters for those games, adding new players, adding new teams, maybe adding a scoreboard, maybe new art, all of that stuff. So yeah, if that gets tackled and there's a tutorial on it, I may dive into that, and I may, dabble in some modding when it comes to the Dreamcast emulator and those early NBA 2Ks.
I love the retro modding that's going on these days. And when we say retro, that is a relative term. Some people might say that the 7th generation, that is Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, is old enough to be retro. I will also point out that, scarily, they are 20 years old. The Xbox 360 came out almost 20 years ago this year, in fact. So from a certain perspective, they are retro. They're certainly not modern. It's certainly going back to some classic gaming, some classic modding. You see some people working on some NBA Live 10 projects, those Dreamcast mods. I saw that he mentioned that it might be possible to get MJ into those games, taking his texture from NBA 2K2 and putting it into NBA 2K, NBA 2K1. That's really cool. As you and everybody else knows, Derek, I'm a big advocate for retro gaming, basketball or otherwise, but the retro modding scene, it certainly is a niche community, a niche interest, but a very passionate one at that. So, yeah, it's really cool to see.
You know what I would love for a mod for the original NBA 2K? A camera mod that makes that TV camera angle stick. Because there is a awesome, I don't know if it's called, I can't remember if it's called cinematic or TV, but basically what it is, it's the perfect broadcast view. But unfortunately what it does is it alternates. So it will go from the broadcast view and then you make a bucket and then all of a sudden it's zoomed in on the players on the court. And it's unplayable at that point. I would love a mod to be created where it just fixes you on that broadcast view. It doesn't alternate camera views, and that would make me pick up the original NBA 2K even more than I do today, because it's the little things like that, right? Like the view matters. It was actually one of the biggest weaknesses, in my opinion, with NBA Live 06 for the Xbox 360. There wasn't a good camera view for that game. There wasn't a good broadcast view. Even the behind view kind of sucked because it had little bugs in it and whatnot. And then when you passed it to the corner, it would zoom in on the player, etc. So the camera view, in my opinion, matters in a big way.
Oh, it absolutely does. And any mods that we can make beyond just reskinning the game and doing custom rosters, which I don't want to downplay, that is very important to do, to fix rosters and create new experiences. But when you can change the camera view or fix a bug or fix something about the game beyond just reskinning it, and I say just reskinning it, again, that's a big undertaking, but it's a bit more advanced to edit camera files and things like that. Whenever you can make those fixes, so much the better. It just makes retro gaming so more fun. And to that point, and I will revisit this in a Monday tip-off that's coming soon, I think there's value in enhancing the original rosters of games, adding those missing players, adding those missing legends, tweaking the game for the best possible performance, for the best possible retro gaming performance with all the accuracy, basically making a current roster update for an outdated game, just polishing up, making it the definitive edition, if you will, a remaster, an unofficial remaster. I think there's a lot of value in that, and I think that really does enhance retro gaming. So those are projects I'll consider as well. I've already done that for a couple of the early NBA Live games on PC. I'll look to do that with a couple of old favorites. Live 06 is obviously another prime candidate here, and I'm already working on that Missing Legends roster for Live 06, and that is something that, once again, can be a base, a springboard to a project like this. But yeah, I think retro modding has to be a big part of retro gaming these days.
Oh, absolutely. So those are Andrew and my summer plans with basketball gaming. Needless to say, Andrew, it doesn't stop, right? Like, basically our habits stay exactly the same, whether, we're on the brink of a new NBA 2K release or not, whether the NBA season is over or not. And we only named some of the titles that we'll be playing because, we have our NBA Street Volume 2 run through that we're trying to do where we're trying to beat all the NBA teams. We still have our NBA Jam on Fire edition road trip where we're about 70%. I'm constantly putting on different basketball video games from the past and whatnot just to play a full game or, just to throw it on for a second to look at things or, jump into a quick game and play a few minutes, etc. So, we didn't mention everything we're going to be playing, but needless to say, Andrew, our basketball gaming habits aren't changing.
Definitely not. And to the point of summer play, I've been playing a bit of Live 18 again recently, picked that up again to finish some objectives in the Pro-Am Tour. Even though it's offline, the servers are no longer active for NBA Live 18, that mode is still playable. Just saying, this is possible with modern games, the past couple of generations. You can make a game that has modes that are still playable offline, just putting it out there. But yeah, going to the Drew League and some other Pro-Am venues in NBA Live 18, and I want to do it in NBA Live 19 as well. I want to give Live 19 a bit more of a shot, and this summer, or winter in my case, in the Southern Hemisphere as I am, but in the off-season, if you will, that is another game that I'll give another go this off-season. Going to the Pro-Am venues, I think that'd be fun. Yeah,
the greed is really taken over with a lot of different video games and video game companies, and they're really, trying to make disposable games. Right?
Yeah, sad.
And that's super unfortunate, especially for people like you and me that, like to go back to our favorites, right? And like to be able to, collect these games and, look back on the different modes that were in them and, the depth and be able to talk about it and et cetera. So, yeah, it is super disappointing.
Before we go on, a reminder that the NLSC podcast comes out every week on the NLSC, nba-live.com, as well as our YouTube channel. We're also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast apps. If you're listening on any of those apps, we'd greatly appreciate a review. To keep up with the show and everything we're doing with basketball gaming in general, connect with us on social media. On Twitter and Facebook, we are the NLSC. We also have an Instagram, NLSC Basketball, and on YouTube, we're youtube.com/NBA Live Series Center. Once again, visit us at nba-live.com, where in addition to the podcast, you'll also find all of our original content, as well as our forum and modding community.
So getting to the community responses, we did have quite a few. Once again, the question, with summer approaching and the newest 2K release in sight, what is your strategy? Plan on sticking with old favorites, still playing NBA 2K25 as a primary, or playing a combination of both NBA 2K25 and old favorites evenly. And we'll start with Twitter. T Gentry at Bucky T states, I'll always revisit old favorites. He will be keeping 2K25 in his rotation, however, but mostly playing offline. And he stated he's definitely going to play 2K25 until 2K26. So he's not going to be stopping playing that game. He's going to play it right up until the release of 2K26. And I do wonder how many people do that, Andrew. My guess is that the gaming population for these games dies down significantly, especially in the last couple months until the newest game releases.
Oh, for sure. Some people do lose interest in the off-season. I think that's very clear. And when you have the previous season tip-off and you see the new game, sometimes I think it encourages people to keep playing what they're playing at the moment, the latest game, while they're anticipating the new one. Sometimes I think it's a bit of a turn-off. They see improvements or what they hope and perceive to be improvements, and it makes the current game less playable, as the case may be. It's a case-by-case basis, obviously. But yeah, I'd say a significant amount of people still do play the latest game up until the new release. I know that we've done it for many years. Not so much me in recent years, but for a long time when I was hooked on the latest game, yeah, I was playing it right up until the new one came out.
Roger Ward, Live 01 Legend, states, I'm sticking with Live 05 primarily, some Live 06, and occasionally some NBA 2K19. I know that he said that he was fond of 2K19 in the past. It's cool that he still, gets on that game and gets enjoyment out of it, kind of like me and my brothers are. And I know that him and Nate have been loving Live 05 for months now, if not a year at this point, and they've been uploading a ton of footage to their Live 01 Legends YouTube channel. And if you haven't checked out that channel, I recommend it. They usually are on camera for their gameplay videos, and I think they're both funny guys, and they get really into the action, and their games are pretty epic.
Yeah, becoming the Live 2005 legends as of late. Really good footage, really great highlights. We've seen some of them in the top 10, obviously. And yeah, 2K19, that is one of my favorites as well. Really love that game. I did enjoy 2K20. I think I enjoyed it a bit more than you do, but 2K19 definitely enjoyed that more. It is the superior game in my view. The last game that I thought was really good across the board, that I really loved across the board, every mode that I tried.
DK4 at FIBA Reeves, who made his debut in the NLSC Top 10 this week with a clutch Harden 3 that tied the game and sent the game into overtime. He states, I really want to play old 2Ks, but my console can only play digital games and no old favorites can be downloaded. And you know how I feel about that. And I know how you feel about these digital only consoles. It is a shame. My recommendation to him, because he stated he did want to play some old favorites, is to use his current PC or look into a gaming PC and, try to get your fix that way, because as Thundershack pointed out, most any PC now can play the classics on the emulators. I also recommend going, the old school route of, picking up a console. If you don't have it, whether it's you want to play Sega Dreamcast, if you want to play PlayStation 3 or PlayStation 2, PlayStation 1, you can find good deals on those consoles normally, with a controller and all the hookups and all of that stuff. So you do have options there if you want to get into retro gaming.
Absolutely, and a reminder that both the PS2 and PS3 can play PS1 games. Not all versions of the PS3 can play PS2 games. The later models, unfortunately, removed the PS2 backwards compatibility. They removed the hardware that allowed the PS2 discs to be played in the drive. So that is unfortunate, but they will play PS1 games. I don't actually own a PS1, Derek. I play all my PS1 games, well, through the emulator if I want to get screenshots and footage, but I do have the capability of playing my PS1 physical copies on PS2 and PS3, so definitely shop around for some old consoles. They are still around, and a lot of the common games are pretty cheap and easy to find. Don't be gouged. There are some sellers who will try to rip you off and say, oh, it's an old game, it's rare. No, there are plenty of NBA 2K8s and NBA Live 06s and such games in circulation, so be a savvy consumer if you're a retro gamer, but yeah, join the retro gaming revolution.
Steven at the Live King states, playing 2K25 offline for a bit and experimenting with rosters. And then he states he also wants to beat Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut. And yeah, my brother and I, we talked about this on a previous show. We're constantly playing games that are not basketball related, and we have a bunch of goals to beat games like Remnant 2, Code Vein, Monster Hunter Wilds, beat all the content in that. We do want to go back to Elden Ring and beat that. And there's several others that we're also looking at beating. So part of our summer gaming plans is also playing many non-basketball titles, as I'm sure it's the same with you.
Oh, definitely. I mean, we love basketball video games, but that's not our only interest. Garfield Kart, new Garfield Kart game coming out, is not just the greatest game in the world, Derek. Now it's going to be the greatest game series in the world. But actually, I'm interested in that game. I'm going to keep an eye out on it. But yeah, there are other games that we enjoy. It's nice to take a break from basketball from time to time, play other things, indulge those other interests. So yeah, absolutely part of my summer plans too, or winter plans, as the case may be here in the Southern Hemisphere.
I think I got the original Garfield Kart for under $5, but you can't put a price on that.
Of course not,
Andrew. That experience, the lessons you learned playing that game. So I'll definitely be picking up Garfield Kart 2. And thank you to WizCard Rush from the NLSC Discord for pointing out that that game would be coming out. H. Dud Biskek states, I bought a PS3 modded, and it can now play College Hoops 2K8 and NCAA College Basketball 10. So yeah, a lot of modded PS3s out there, a lot of people getting into those, and even playing games like NBA Elite 11 on them and whatnot. So I'm glad he's getting his fix somewhere.
No, that's cool. And of course, a reminder that John Z1 recently released a new version of the 2020's On Fire Edition mod for NBA Jam On Fire Edition. It can be played on the emulator. That's how we usually play it, because we're often playing it together, you and I, over Parsec. But it does also work on jailbroken PS3s, so if you want to play it on original hardware, and you have that modded original hardware, give it a look. But if not, give it a look on the emulator, because John Z1 is doing some amazing work with NBA Jam On Fire Edition, and we didn't mention it, Derek, but I'm pretty sure that's going to be in our rotation as well.
Oh, absolutely. Moving over to Discord, QB1120 states 2K25 will be free on Tuesday on PlayStation, and I'm not sure if I'll even play it. Nothing really makes me want to. I wish there was an alternative for NBA. Yeah, you don't really need to say much else there. I think that a lot of us are in the same boat with that line of thinking. However, for those of you that have not played 2K25 or were waiting for a sale and whatnot, I mean, free, Andrew. That's a good way to get your hands on it and give it a try.
Oh, for sure. Can't beat that. And I mentioned this on the Discord recently, that if you want to collect, if you are a collector, but you're not sure about getting the latest NBA 2K because you feel burned by the game, not enjoying the game as of late, certainly understand, can certainly relate to that, but wait for it to go on sale, $10-15, whatever's affordable to you. It's always going to be pretty cheap at some point during the year. It's easier to pick it up now for $10-15 when it goes on sale, then track down a key later, especially for PC where it is digital only. There are discs in circulation on the second-hand market for PS5, Xbox Series X, obviously, but for PC especially, yeah, pick it up while you can. If you definitely want to have it, if you want to have it in your collection moving forward, just wait for the sale, or indeed a free giveaway like this, and grab it while you can.
Vetman states, old favorites only. Vin says 2K25, trying to make it my main era's NBA game. And that's a good idea. So basically what he wants to do is make that game stick even after 2K26 comes out. Kind of like what Careless XCI is doing with NBA 2K23, where he continued playing it and playing those eras rosters and whatnot, up till today. I'm pretty sure he was still playing that game and those rosters. That's a good idea from Vin. He also states he'll be playing his old favorites on the Steam Deck. He says, only way I buy 2K26 is if I see big improvements, although I will say the League Pass offer makes it hard to turn down. Yeah, they're getting people with that, right? I mean, that's a pretty good deal. It's a lot cheaper to get League Pass, through purchasing NBA 2K than buying League Pass on its own. So it's almost a win-win for those people that love to watch the current product, that, want to watch many games a week and not just their local team or a national broadcast game and whatnot.
Yeah, as much as I'm not a fan of expensive editions and the kind of greed that we're seeing from 2K these days, that is a good deal. If you want League Pass, as you say, one of the cheapest ways to get League Pass plus the game. So I can't deny that it's a good deal. So that is definitely something to consider. And with my NBA eras and my league, etc., for the most part, we're not locked out of those saves as we are with my career and, of course, my team as well. But there are some issues if you download assets and rebrand teams. I think you can only rebrand up to 3 teams, and you can't use any online assets from 2K Share to do so, or you'll get locked out of the save moving forward when the servers get shut down. That is something to be aware of. But as long as your save meets those requirements, then you can play it for years. So, yeah, I absolutely love that. That is something that I've always loved about my all-time favorites, that I can pick them up, keep a save on hand. I've lost too many saves over the years. Unfortunately, Derek, not having the foresight to back them up, losing them one way or the other when I'm going to a new computer, for example. But whenever I've had the foresight to hold on to my saves, like my NBA Live 06 Dynasty, for example, my NBA 2K13 My Career on PC, yeah, it's fun to dust them off and pick them up again and play that old favorite, pick up where you've left off with so much progress, continue the journey. So I absolutely love that he's doing that.
Last response on Discord was from Avery. He states, just because it's going to be free on PlayStation Plus soon, I'm going to be playing 2K25 and the old favorites. He then states, this is going to be my first 2K I touched since 2K21. So he's diving in. He didn't play 2K22, 23, or 24. I think this is a good one for you to jump back in, Avery, actually, because I do think that, in my opinion, it's the best 2K since NBA 2K19. I even enjoy this one more than 2K20 from a gameplay perspective, from an art perspective. So yeah, I'm interested to hear, what you think of the game.
Definitely. And I would say to people who already own NBA 2K25, especially if you own the disc version on PS5, as I do, then look, I add the PlayStation Plus games every month, Derek, whether I'm interested in them or not, because it's free. Might as well get free stuff. When 2K does come to PlayStation Plus like that, I always do pick it up because, if nothing else, I don't have to switch in the disc anymore. I can use the digital copy that I now have, but I still have the disc for the collection.
So, Andrew, I do believe that we received a response on Facebook.
We did indeed. Stephen F. says, I'm working through a Dynasty mode in College Hoops 2K8 for the 360 and playing around with Backyard Basketball for the PS2, but I still haven't bought 2K25. I'd like to try out the WNBA and NBA Modern and Legends roster in that, so once I find it for around $15, I'll pick it up. And I'm guessing it will be on sale pretty shortly. With it being the summer, they will discount it, as they do throughout the year. But once again, if you do have a PlayStation 5, then that is an option to get it through PlayStation Plus if you have that subscription. But yeah, love that he's still playing College Hoops 2K8 and playing through that Dynasty mode. And that's the thing about franchise modes, especially in NBA games because of the longer season, but even in college games, there's only so much you can get through in the space of a year before the new game comes out. So sticking with an old favorite or returning to one like that, you can just play and play and play.
Hey, the old favorites still have the stat tracking.
Exactly.
Right? And in the case of College Hoops 2K8, there are no real players anyway, right? It's either generated names or it's numbers. So there isn't a whole thing, well, I don't want to use these old college players or I don't want to use these old NBA players and whatnot. It can still be a fresh, fun experience with all the stat tracking, the awards, creating memories with those fictional players, etc. So yeah, I think that that's a good idea. And I think that sticking with old favorites allows you to get through a lot more of the content, right? And because you're not just dependent on that 1 year cycle.
And I haven't spent a lot of time with the Backyard Basketball series. I do have the PC version of 2007, the Paul Pierce one. I haven't really spent a lot of time with it yet, but that will be coming up in a Way Back Wednesday at some point, Derek.
Yeah, I'm going to have to check that one out because I have not played that either. But, as our listeners know, Andrew and I want to play every basketball video game ever made. I mean, Full Court Heroes just hit early access. So, we played the demo, but we're both probably going to pick up that game and then give our impressions on that as well. And we're going to have to connect and play some games online with that new title. And then obviously we got the Run Got Next that's coming out later this year. Whatever new or old basketball game, we want to get our hands on it and, talk about it on the show.
Oh, absolutely. And we welcome the return of anyone else to the basketball gaming space. We've talked about wanting to see NBA Live return many times. still up in the air. You hear some rumours from time to time. We will, of course, cover them if there's anything substantial, but in the meantime, we will cover those games. We'll certainly keep our eye on them. But yeah, the old favourites, Derek, so many of them hold up.
Absolutely.
But yeah, good to be back on the air, Derek. And once again, shout out to our fantastic listeners for tuning in each and every week, of course, and also responding to your community questions.
Yeah, thanks for all the responses to the mailbag. Thanks for participating in the NLSC Top 10 Plays of the Week, which has just been awesome lately. Andrew, just so many great highlights, some new contributors, etc. Thank you for interacting with Andrew's articles and, joining the Discord and the conversations going on there. So, yeah, it's a great community.
With that being said, that has brought us to the end of this week's show. As always, thank you for tuning in, and please join us again next week and every week on the NLSC, nb-live.com, our YouTube channel, or wherever you listen to podcasts. In the meantime, make sure you're following us on social media. That's where you can get in touch with us, and of course, stay up to date with all of our content. So Derek, go ahead and plug the handles.
Yeah, you can reach me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at D43G and at D4384. I'm also on YouTube at D43 and on the NLSC D43.
As for me, I'm Andrew in the forum and Andrew NLSC on X and Blue Sky. The NLSC is on X, Facebook, and Blue Sky at the NLSC. We're also NLSC Basketball on Instagram and Threads. We're on YouTube at NBA Live Series Center. And of course, keep it locked to the NLSC itself, nb-live.com, for everything we do for basketball video games. So, thank you once again for tuning in, and until next time, I'm Andrew.
And I'm Derek.
Go get buckets, everyone.